Hey guys, how's it going? Eminem Gaming here, and today we're back with another video. And today we're going to be talking about the new 4.5 update for the PS4, and how it's probably one, if not the biggest update to date for the PlayStation 4. We're going to go through all the features that have been listed and just give you my thoughts on them. To be honest with you guys, I haven't really cared too much about too many updates up until this one. There's been some cool stuff like folders and whatever, but really it was nothing I was desperate for. But this one is actually really good, so we'll get into that. And I'd also like to talk about Nioh, the new game coming from Koei Tecmo, and how it's getting great reviews, and also very early on, but looks like it's selling pretty well, and give you my thoughts on that, the game as a whole. And yeah, but first off, let's just get into the PS4.5 update, and yeah, give you my thoughts. So first up, and probably the second biggest thing on this list of things coming for the update, has got to be the external hard drive support. If you don't know what that is, if you have an Xbox One or a PC, basically you have an external hard drive, so for storage and stuff, that you plug in to your Xbox One, or I think Wii U had it as well, and it gives your console more storage. Now, if you have a launch day PS4, which is 500 gigabytes, even a 1 terabyte one, I have a 1 terabyte PS4 Pro. So for me, I'm constantly having to delete stuff. You know, I love games, I love playing games, buying games, but sometimes once you finish that game, it's got to straight away be deleted, and that kind of sucks. Particularly games, sometimes you might be done with it, like for example Bloodborne, but you might want to pop back and just mess around or whatever in the world. You've got to re-download the game and whatever. Now with this 8 terabyte hard drive support, you shouldn't be running out of space for a good long time. That is really good. Obviously, the Xbox One and Xbox One S supports up to 16 gigabytes, but the biggest one you can get is an 8 terabyte one, but you can use two of them on an Xbox One S. Either way, I think that's a fantastic update. You know, a lot of the stuff is usually just cosmetic and doesn't really add anything. This is a huge update though, so well done Sony for finally getting it. Next up is custom wallpapers. Now this is another one for me I don't really care too much about. I have seen on Twitter. Obviously, I haven't been too active on YouTube or Twitter, to be honest with you guys. Been very busy lately, but I have seen some pretty funny custom backgrounds, shared on Twitter and stuff for people in the beta. So that's pretty cool. Maybe you want your family members on there, or your pets in the background. Whatever you want as a background, you can now have. There's only one slight problem with it. It has to be from the share button. So let's just say I wanted Ratchet and Clank. I've took a really nice screenshot. I can use that as the background. Now you might think, well, what if I want, a family member or a pet or something? There's ways around it. You can kind of go into Twitter if you post the picture there, put it on full screen and take a screenshot from there. There's workarounds around it. Kind of sucks you can't just directly upload something to it, but hey, it's better than nothing. I'm probably not going to use it because I like themes that move and have music in the background, but if that's something for you, then fantastic for you. Next up, this is another small thing, but it's all very useful, and that is the quick menu is a lot more, I guess, quicker or easier to use for setting up parties and inviting friends to games. Basically, you hold down the PlayStation button and it brings up a little sidebar. You can now go to your friends, it'll say who's online, and then you can click invite or invite to party, invite to game, whatever it may be. So it's all easier. a little thing, and yeah, definitely helps for those who want to do things a lot quicker and whatnot. Next up, notifications. These have changed. It's a little change, but I think this is a pretty cool change. And that is in the notification section, as you guys may know, there's like a huge list of like a sidebar with like downloads, uploads, recent communities, all this sort of stuff. And it can be kind of cluttered. I don't know about yours, but mine's definitely cluttered a lot of the time with community invites. I don't really care about communities and all that sort of stuff. So now you can filter what you want to see. If you just want to see downloads, you can just see downloads. If you just want to see invites, whatever it may be, you can sort of filter it for your personal needs. And that's another cool thing. And yeah, that's pretty cool. Now you can also as well post to the what's new section on the PlayStation. If you notice, before you could only really post like, if I posted something to Twitter like, oh, I've got a new game or something, or look at this screenshot or whatever it may be, and posting to Twitter. Or if you do follow me on PSN, MattyJM1997, give me an ad if you feel like it. You can also see when my videos would upload, but I couldn't just post anything there like, oh, I'm really excited for Horizon or something. Now you can, and that's a really cool update. So yeah, now you can do that, and it's a little bit making it, I guess, like what am I trying to say, like a social media sort of thing, you know, not just a side thing. It can be more of a like a Twitter, Facebook sort of thing. So that's pretty cool in my opinion. Now this is really, I thought, was in from launch. I don't really watch movies, so it didn't really affect me, so I only found out this today. But VR can now play 3D Blu-ray videos when you've got the headset on. So as you know, you can play every game in VR in cinema mode, which is a really cool feature about it actually. But you couldn't watch movies in it, which I assumed you could, so my bad on that. But you can now in the 4.5 update. Really cool. I don't really watch movies that often. When I do, it tends to be on Netflix. I don't have too many physical DVDs, Blu-ray or not. So, but if you've got that, that's really cool, and it's nice to see all the hardware from VR to the regular PS4 and the Pro all getting a bit of love in this update, and that's fantastic. And now here's the big one. Now this, in my opinion, is even bigger than the the external hard drive, which is a big update in my opinion. But now the boost mode, or some people calling it the beast mode, adds better frame rates to PlayStation 4 Pro games. Now, as you guys may know, if Sony didn't patch a game before, if you had a PS4 Pro, it's exactly the same as the PlayStation 4 regular version, you know. And there's plenty of games that have no patch whatsoever. And let's be honest, probably not going to get a patch, you know, let's be honest here. Even though it's pretty easy to do a patch, it still costs money. It still probably costs $20,000. And if the game ain't really selling like that, they're not really going to do it, are they? So that kind of sucked, and I know a lot of people wanted improvements. Well, this actually does improve that. So what it does is, if it is locked at 30 frames per second, so you look at Bloodborne, it doesn't have an unlocked frame rate, it's locked at 30 frames per second. What it will do now is make it a more consistent 30 FPS, and also help reduce screen tearing, which was a big problem for people. Then you look at something like Battlefield 4, which was 60 frames per second. However, it dropped below that a lot. Now this will make it a more stable 60 frames per second. But another big thing, and there is a big thing coming from that, is a game like Rainbow Six Siege. Now this is the only one I've personally heard of. There may be plenty more that I just don't know of. And this is really exciting. So Rainbow Six Siege actually has an unlocked frame rate. So it's not locked at 30, it's not locked at 60 and just boosts it up and makes it more stable. No, it has an unlocked frame rate. So there have been instances of over 60 frames per second. We've now, I saw a video. Is it true? I don't know. How are these guys measuring their frames per second? I'm not too sure. But there was one that showed 100 frames per second. Now, it could be false, it could be true, who knows. But in any game, particularly how much I bang on about how I love, I want more FPSs, and, I want more frames per second, and we need better FPSs over better graphics every day of the week. It's nice to see that games can, with this boost mode, potentially have massive upgrades over the base version. The only problem that I can see with this, well, two problems, is possibly crashing games. Now, they do say if you're having problems with games, turn it off. It's in the quick menu, so it's easy to turn off. But the second problem I have is, does this kind of defeat the purpose of the Pro? And hear me out on this one. Wasn't it the whole point that you can't get any better FPS, better frames per second? Now, with the boost mode, you could potentially, if a developer chooses so, like the Rainbow Six Siege developers have, you could have, let's just say their game's 60 frames per second, you could have 70 to 80 frames per second. Now, for somebody who sucks at the game like me, not really going to be a problem. However, if you're a similar style player, or your level in terms of skill quality, well, the person that you'll be, shooting or whatever is going to have a massive advantage now on the PlayStation 4 Pro. Doesn't really bother me so much. Obviously, I'm a PS4 Pro owner, but, I didn't really mind anyway if they added it, to be honest, or if they didn't. But yeah, that's the only thing I can see. But hey, I certainly won't complain if I get Rainbow Six and I'm playing at a beautiful frame rate. And that's the thing with me. With low frame rates, I can sometimes, it makes me feel a little bit ill. So this is great to see. So rambling aside, what a fantastic update, guys. And let me know your thoughts. Do you think this is the best update PlayStation's ever done, like in terms of firmware? In my opinion, certainly this generation, absolutely it is. Adding features that people loved off the PS3, like custom backgrounds, external hard drive support, which is a new feature, which is fantastic, and the boost mode. I mean, what more can you really ask for, in my opinion? Well, name changes and backwards compatibility. I expect it in the 5.0 update, Sony. You've set yourself a standard now. But all that aside, I wanted to finally talk about Nioh, give you my thoughts. Obviously, I want to say I haven't played the game. It's not actually even out yet. But I want to give you my thoughts on like the previews, the reviews, and even the sales, and why I'm personally excited for this game. The reviews are doing fantastic as it stands on Metacritic, so take it with whatever you, if you like Metacritic. If you don't, I like Metacritic to see like what games are good, or what's the general consensus on a game. And at the moment, as of today, the video I'm doing today, it is at an 87 on Metacritic. Now, I've got to say that's up there with the Souls games. Obviously, Bloodborne, I think, was a 92, maybe a 93 on Metacritic. I think Dark Souls 3 was an 89. So it's in that sort of realm that they're in, those sort of high-rated games. And not only reviewers who have, give it an 87 on Metacritic, which I think we can all admit is an absolutely fantastic score, but the gamers themselves. I've seen a lot of people, a lot of people I follow on Twitter, a lot of people who have the game early, actually saying this is better than the Souls series. Now, I'll have to play it for myself to really make that sort of judgment, but they're saying that the combat is deeper. Dark Souls looks very almost like beginner, or very like plain compared to this, the leveling up, the skill trees and everything. So that sounds really cool. I played all three of the betas, or the demos, or whatever they were called. Played all three of them, loved all three of them, and I can't wait for this game. Now, I will have to wait, sadly, due to the fact that there's so many games, so little money. I wish I had more, but definitely will be picking this up. It'll be my next gaming purchase, and I cannot wait for the game. But in terms of sales, well, it looks like it's going well so far, at least. So Amazon, obviously, probably the biggest seller of games. I'd be surprised. Even talking about like GameSpot and Stop, sorry, and Game in the UK, I'd say majority of the sales probably do come through Amazon. I could be wrong, but I'd assume so. So it's a pretty good parameter, even though it's not all the sales bear that in mind. But at Amazon UK, it is actually number one at the moment, beating out The Legend of Zelda. Now, I assume, I hope, The Legend of Zelda will outsell phenomenally Nioh. I'd assume so. But it's doing really well as it stands. You consider there's about, what, 2 million Switches at launch. You consider at least 1.7, I'd assume, are getting Legend of Zelda for the Switch. So it's doing really well in the UK, which is a big territory for game sales. In the US, it is actually number 3, but it's actually the top selling game, if that makes sense. Number 1 and number 2 are gift cards. Number 3 is Nioh. Again, number 4, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And finally, in Japan, it is number 2 behind Monster Hunter for the 3DS. So that's a fantastic series if you've never played it. But yeah, selling really well, doing really well so far. Hopefully it has long legs and doesn't just have like a really great opening following, you know what I mean? Like the Souls fans really got behind it. And then just died off, you know what I mean? Hopefully it lives on and does really well. But yeah, that's just my thoughts, guys. Let me know yours down below as always. But this has been M&M Gaming. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're not already. And I'll catch you guys in a new video.